Action for Healthy Communities' collective action forum, Sport for Inclusion, Connection, and Learning, is the third iteration of a city-wide conversation around inclusion in sport. In these forums, we bring together all individuals, groups, and communities that have a collective interest in providing an equitable space for sport. Specifically, we focused on inviting cultural community groups, BIPOC youth leaders in sport organizations, both local and provincial, as well as policymakers within the City of Edmonton.
I'm very happy that Action for Healthy Communities is engaging in a process whereby they're hearing directly from the community so that we can inform policy when it comes to being more inclusive for sport here in the province of Alberta.
When I usually come to events like this, you don't see PSOs, community groups, municipalities together under one roof. It's usually you have one group and then you have another group and you're going to separate events. So the fact that you had everybody under one umbrella is something I haven't seen a lot of from out there, and coming here is to really help educate on how do we continue working together as a community and how do we get more people involved to make sport more diverse and inclusive for everybody involved.
Today's event was so amazing. We had different stakeholders from different organizations in Edmonton, from basketball, Sports Edmonton. We had the Oilers from the Oilers, another non-for-profit that shared really insightful ways to collaborate and the challenges that we face in our community around sports.
A valuable aspect of our forums is that they are not only a space for community learning, but it is a project for knowledge mobilization as well. We utilize research and evaluation on the findings that develop in conversation through our forums to discern what the concerns of the community collectively are, possible action items, and how the continued conversation should occur. This ensures that our collective action forums are partnered with action throughout the following year, where we then report on the findings at the following forum.
Research is important because everybody wants to see the data, everybody wants to hear what people are saying. So the fact that you guys have amazing research that we have from that aspect of what's happening in Edmonton, how can we expand that research to other parts of Alberta? How can we expand that research to include other individuals from other areas, and like being able to share that information with your ministries, with your governments, to show there is a need for the work that you are doing, and there's a need to continue the work that you are doing and the importance of why you guys are running the programs and opportunities that you have today.
While Action for Healthy Communities has been driving the conversation around inclusion in sport, we have not been alone. The collaborations that we have been a part of and have seen in the sports space are essential to increasing opportunities in sport. These collaborations are not always easy to develop, so we invited sport organizations who have been utilizing these collaborations in their own projects to address equity and inclusion to provide tangible advice to other groups looking to partner.
It can be quite inequitable depending on what sport and what your income level is, and even how you identify your race and all that kind of stuff. So being aware, even touching on those points is really important. So I'm glad we touched on, especially inclusivity in the panel was really good, just to see how snowboarding, seeing how snowboarding can actually get people in, because it is such an expensive sport. Just seeing how they can help those communities is so helpful.
One of the findings from AHC's Participating in Art, Sport, and Society project that researched the barriers to sport for racialized newcomers was that sport organizations were asking for more support connecting with newcomers, learning about the barriers that exist and how their organizations can address them. Using our experience with the community and the partnerships we've developed, we provided tangible learnings to sport organizations on the logistics of inclusive sports spaces. Another one of the continued findings from both our past research and prior forum evaluations was that there is a need to connect cultural and ethnic minority communities with sport organizations to engage more newcomers to sports and recreation. To fund these events, there is a need for information around the grants and resources that are available to provide sport opportunities in the community. To provide this resource, we had the Executive Director of the In Motion Network, Lindsay Wright, provide information on what grants are available, how to apply for them, how to target sport organizations to partner for these sport programs, and suggestions for what to include in their application.
I belong to this growing Nepali diaspora. It is a growing community here in the Edmonton region. We have just under 10,000 people living in the region. It's a growing community. And one thing we have recognized is sports is something that brings the community together. So we just mix the community with the sports element, bringing that inclusivity together. This has been a great learning tool for us, as well as for newcomers in the Nepali diaspora, where people are coming in, making friends and getting to know the community and province at large through the mechanism of sports.
It was great discussion going, and it was a great opportunity to kind of exchange those best practices, like in receiving grants, in maybe meeting some other sport organizations. I think it's a great opportunity to bring those cultural communities and to bring more diversified service receivers. At the same time, you know, like to let those cultural communities to feel included, so they are part of this, all those activities, because in some cases when we just saw new, when we just came to Canada, we don't know lots of aspects, we don't have enough information, and thanks to this kind of gatherings, when we can kind of marry, like, you know, those cultural communities with sport organizations, it's a great opportunity.
Our final breakout room at the CAF was for the BIPOC youth leaders in sport. We intentionally added this due to our findings from both our past research and the research we did with the Coaching Association of Canada regarding the pathways to coaching for newcomers in Canada. The research in both projects highlighted a lack of diversity in leadership, as well as barriers that are disproportionately impacting racialized and newcomer communities. To help address and lower these barriers, racialized newcomer youth who are leaders in sport were invited to develop their networks, learn and provide their perspective in collective discussion.
I got to meet a lot of folks from different part of the sports community, from track and field to ice hockey to soccer, all the way to cricket.
The keynote speaker for the Collective Action Forum was the president and CEO of the Inclusion in Canadian Sport Network, Shauna Buckle. Shauna has been a staunch advocate for equity, diversity, and inclusion in sport in Canada. Through her work putting together the Diversity in Sport Conference, sitting on various EDI committees on sport in Canada, and one of 10 Canadians who was selected to sit on the Federal Ministerial Advisory Committee on Sport in 2022-2023. She spoke at our forum about the importance of EDI policies, what inclusion in sport means, and how we as a community can be addressing these important issues. To end our forum, we engaged in collective discussion that built off the learning that happened during the day. These discussions included perspectives into how accessible the stakeholders feel the current sports system is, who has the largest role to play in addressing these barriers to sport access, and what barriers or issues that they view are the most important. The responses to these table discussions were collected and will be evaluated to pull out themes that we can provide back to the community.